I remember when I first got the job. The offer letter came on a Friday afternoon, one of those surprisingly warm March days in 2021, when the sun streamed through my apartment window, and I felt like the luckiest person in the world. The company was reputable, the benefits were solid, and best of all, it was fully remote. Not remote until further notice, not, we'll reassess in 6 months. No, this was full-on, Slack and Zoom, pajama bottoms all day remote. After a year of pandemic chaos, I had finally found a sense of stability, and it was wrapped in the glow of a laptop screen on my kitchen table. I set up my home office with obsessive care: monitor, mechanical keyboard, noise-canceling headphones, a Herman Miller chair I justified as an investment in my health. Every morning I brewed my own coffee, read a bit, then started work in complete silence. I was productive, I was calm. I even got into the habit of walking during my lunch breaks. At one point, I thought, this is what people meant when they talked about work-life balance. This is what adulthood is supposed to feel like. Co-workers became familiar faces through digital squares. We'd hold daily stand-ups on Google Meet, complain about the Wi-Fi, show off our pets. When someone mentioned the office, it felt like a memory from a past life, a strange relic from the before times. We used phrases like async culture and location flexibility, and I truly believed we were building a better way to work. But then, in the fall of 2022, the tone changed. It started with small things, surveys asking how we felt about hybrid, execs reminiscing in all-hands meetings about the magic of spontaneous hallway chats. Then a VP said something like, "It's time to bring back that collaborative spark." My stomach tightened. The writing was on the wall. By January 2023, the memo came. We're excited to announce our return to office initiative. Starting Q2, employees will be expected to be in office 3 days a week. Excited. That was the word they used. I sat staring at the email, rereading it with the disbelief you feel when someone you trust lies straight to your face. 3 days a week? My team was spread across 4 time zones. What collaboration were we supposedly regaining? I told myself I'd adapt. Everyone was making sacrifices. It'd be nice to see people again, maybe I'd find a new rhythm. But the moment I stepped back into the office, after 2 years of building a quiet, self-directed work life, it all unraveled. The first morning back was a joke. I woke up an hour earlier than usual, bleary-eyed and already anxious. My commute, which I had almost forgotten, was now a parade of delays, honking, and overpriced gas. By the time I reached the building, I was sweating through my shirt and clutching a half-spilled coffee like it was my last drop of sanity. The office wasn't even full. Maybe 30% occupancy, rows of empty desks, flickering lights, awkward hellos. The buzz they promised? It was more like a library where nobody wanted to be, and worse, everyone was on Zoom anyway. I remember walking past a glass conference room where 2 of my teammates were on video calls, with other people in the building. It was the most dystopian thing I'd ever seen. I could hear their voices through the glass, and also through my earbuds. It was like echoing ghosts of productivity, haunting us with redundancy. I tried to act like everything was fine. I brought my lunch in a Tupperware. I even wore real pants. But my mind was fragmented, half focused on work, half on the constant logistics of traffic, parking, packing meals, adjusting my schedule around this new time sink. The worst part? I was less productive. At home, I had control over my day. I could do deep work in 2-hour stretches. In the office, I was constantly interrupted. Small talk, impromptu check-ins, that weird sense of being watched. Suddenly, everything needed to look busy. Even if it wasn't meaningful, it was performative. I started having headaches again. My sleep got worse. My workouts dropped off. And slowly, I started resenting everything. My job, my coworkers, my manager, even myself, for not fighting harder to keep what I'd had. The tipping point came one Thursday afternoon. I was in a status meeting, one of those drawn-out marathons that should have been an email. A director was droning on about alignment and in-person synergies, and I felt my jaw clench. I stared out the window at the freeway, wishing I was in my kitchen, where I used to eat toast and listen to birds between calls. Then he said it. I just think people should want to come into the office. Like we were teenagers being guilt-tripped by a parent. Like my decision to value my time and peace meant I didn't care enough. My eyes burned. Not from tears, just from sheer emotional overload. I wasn't even sad. I was tired. Bone-deep tired. Not the kind sleep could fix. After the meeting, I walked into the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and just sat there. For 20 minutes. No phone, no scrolling. Just silence and that strange echo of office HVAC humming overhead. I thought, is this it? Is this what I came back for? I had never felt more unseen. The following weeks were a blur. I did the minimum. I stopped turning my camera on. I avoided team lunches. There was a numbness setting in, a dull emotional frost. I wasn't angry anymore. I was disconnected. It felt like a breakup, but without the closure. I had fallen in love with the idea of what work could be, and now I was being asked to pretend it never happened. The gaslighting was constant. Leaders paraded smiling pictures of office culture on Slack. HR sent pulse surveys asking how excited we were to be back. When I gave honest feedback, I got a canned "thanks for your input" response with a smiley face. Friends outside my company weren't much better. "At least you have a job," they'd say. Or worse, "you knew it wouldn't last forever." I felt alone in a crowd. Everyone was pretending, playing the part, and I didn't know how to anymore. I took a week off in May, no travel, no big plans, just rest. For the first time in months, I sat still long enough to actually listen to myself. Not the frantic, over-caffeinated voice that lives in calendar invites, but the quieter one. The one that used to walk during lunch breaks and read before bed. That voice told me something I didn't want to hear. You're grieving. Grieving the loss of autonomy, grieving the trust you thought you had with your employer, grieving a version of work that felt like it belonged to you. The pandemic didn't just change logistics, it changed values. I had tasted a different kind of life, one where work was integrated into my day rather than dominating it. And now, I was being asked to go back to a system that no longer made sense. I realized that my frustration wasn't laziness or entitlement, it was misalignment. The office didn't fit who I had become. I didn't quit, at least not immediately. But I did change. I started setting boundaries. If I had to be in the office, I chose which days worked best for me, not them. I scheduled no meeting blocks and defended them. I found quiet corners where I could actually focus. I started ignoring Slack pings outside work hours, and shockingly, no one died. Most importantly, I began planning my exit. Not in a frantic, escape the burning ship kind of way, but intentionally. I updated my resume. I reached out to people in companies that were still truly remote. I did informational interviews. I gave myself permission to want more. In October, I accepted an offer at a fully distributed startup. Smaller team, better culture, asynchronous first. My first day felt like coming home. Now I work from a small co-working space near my apartment when I want human interaction. I take long walks again. I have lunch with my partner. I'm doing good work, but more importantly, I feel like a whole person again. Sometimes I think about those early office days. The clatter of keyboards, the smell of burnt coffee, the badge scanners that beeped with every entry. There was a time when all of that felt like belonging. But we changed. The world changed, and pretending otherwise doesn't make it true. I don't blame people who like being back. Some people need the structure, some thrive on face-to-face. But forcing one model for everyone is just lazy leadership. It's nostalgia disguised as strategy. The return to office wasn't about productivity, it was about control, about clinging to an old idea of professionalism where presence equaled performance. But we've seen the other side now, we've seen what's possible, and once you've known that kind of freedom, it's impossible to unsee it. So no, I don't miss the office, and yes, it sucks to be forced back, but it also pushed me to rediscover my values, my worth, and the kind of work I actually want to do, and in that, oddly enough, I found clarity.